On the second day of Christmas in 2016, two men in ski masks stormed into the Dixie Gun and Pawn Store. In Mableton, Georgia, store surveillance captured one of the men pointing a gun at the worker behind the counter and shouting, "Get down on the floor! Get down on the floor, or I'll kill you!" The owner and two customers were in the store at the time, and the threats prompted the clerk to put his hands up. Within seconds, 64-year-old store owner Jimmy Groover took cover behind a gun safe. Without hesitation, he grabbed a pistol and opened fire, just as the suspect was in the process of drawing a second weapon. The would-be robber, later identified as 30-year-old Donovan Chopin, was shot multiple times and dropped to the floor. As he fell, Chopin fired a bullet that shattered a gun display case and hit a door, mere inches from where Groover was standing. The store owner also shot at Chopin's accomplice, who was able to flee and who remained at large. As of subsequent updates on the matter, Chopin died from his injuries in the aftermath. Groover told a local media outlet that he'd owned the store for 3 decades. Throughout that time, it was burglarized 18 times. But the incident with Chopin was the first time that he was present at the scene. Groover stated, "I had no other choice. I hate that it happened, but I want to go home at night too." The grandfather revealed that after the surveillance footage went viral, he received countless calls and messages of support from around the country. Groover said, "People are tired of being victimized, and they're glad to see a good guy win." Number 7. Lucas de Padua, Villegas, and the Street Thief. On January the 11th of 2025, Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert Lucas de Padua Villegas was preparing to drop his mother off at a store in Caraguatatuba, Brazil, when he heard someone shout, "Catch the thief!" Villegas made his way across the street upon spotting a man who was running with a backpack in his hand. As seen in surveillance footage, the martial artist adopted a low stance and cut the thief's path, but the latter tried to run through him. Villegas jammed his shoulder into the thief's midsection, lifted him high in the air, and body slammed him hard on the pavement. After performing the double leg takedown, Villegas placed his knee on the thief's neck before performing another grappling technique. I yanked his arm to the other side and locked it down. I thought, he's not going to move this arm again. Villegas later told a media outlet. A bystander approached them and removed the bag from the battered thug's hand. He was held at the scene until the arrival of law enforcement, who rushed him to an urgent treatment center before taking him to the station for processing. Villegas, who had been practicing martial arts since the late 1990s, said, "We train for all kinds of situations at the gym," adding that he opted for a takedown because he feared the squirrely thief might have dodged a strike. The 27-year-old, whom Villegas had subdued, was suspected of robbing jewelers in the area. In his backpack, the police found a machete, 2 cell phones, and several jewelry pieces. Number 6. Adrian Kaczmarek. One evening in the spring of 2016, a shirtless man began harassing subway riders on an Expo Line train in Los Angeles, California. In a clip of the incident, the unnamed 25-year-old appeared to be enraged, and he accused other riders of calling him a weirdo. He tried to approach a man but was fended off with a bicycle. He briefly walked away but returned and aggressively got in the face of another young man. The thug appeared to be gearing up to strike him, but he seriously underestimated his circumstances. In a split second, a subway rider grabbed him from behind. Adrian Kaczmarek placed the shirtless aggressor in a rear naked choke and applied pressure until the man was unconscious on the floor of the train. The bystander recording the incident said, "Damn, this is going viral." Much to the delight of the other riders whom the thug had terrorized, Kaczmarek then placed his foot on the man's chest, urging him to stay down. The aggressor turned victim flailed on the floor and struggled to get up, but was unable to do so for the rest of the video. Transit authorities took him into custody and reported that he was under the influence of drugs and alcohol. He was subsequently arrested for being drunk and disorderly. The clip went viral, earning millions of views across multiple media platforms, and Kaczmarek became known as the heroic Viking guy. Reacting to the footage, one user wrote, "That guy's foot was like Thor's hammer. Can't be moved. LOL." While another commented, "Cool. Now clone him 500 million times and maybe we can save Western civilization." Speaking to Fox 11, Kaczmarek said that because he stood at 6'3" and weighed 280 pounds, he felt almost obligated to intervene, particularly since tensions had escalated and the thug had been pushing people. Kaczmarek noted he was just a regular guy, in spite of the internet theorizing he was a UFC fighter or a Navy SEAL, and that the incident was the first time he'd ever put someone in a chokehold. The bearded Bruce Wayne, as someone online had dubbed him, revealed that the incident had made him a national hero in his native Poland, and that he received hundreds of daily messages from around the world. Before the interview concluded, one of the newscasters told Kaczmarek, "We need more of you." Number 5. John Sullivan. Missouri man John Sullivan was watching TV with his wife at their Kansas City home on September the 3rd of 2016, while their 4 young sons slept upstairs. At around 10 p.m., an armed burglar entered the residence through the unlocked front door. He made his way to the living room and pointed his weapon at Sullivan. The latter jumped off the couch, grabbed his 50-inch flat screen and launched it at the man. The device weighed roughly 30 pounds, but Sullivan later told a media outlet, "I didn't even feel the weight. It was just like a piece of paper. It just flew across the room at the guy." Sullivan then ran towards the intruder, screaming at the top of his lungs, and managed to chase him off. The criminal ran outside and got into a getaway vehicle where an accomplice was waiting for him, and they drove off. Sullivan reenacted the encounter for a media outlet. The bespectacled man said that he acted out of pure instinct, driven by the singular thought of preventing his loved ones from being harmed. Sullivan said, "Everything was on the line, my whole family, so I had to do what I had to do to protect them." No arrests were reported in the immediate aftermath, and the men who targeted the Sullivans were believed to have carried out 2 other home invasions in the area on the same night. Number 4. Nick Neves. On Thanksgiving morning in 2024, an axe-wielding burglar forced his way into the First Family Church in Antioch, California. The unnamed man used the axe to smash a window and ransacked the place of worship, triggering the security alarm in the process. Pastor Nick Neves heard the commotion and went to the church, whereupon he confronted the thief in the parking lot. 46-year-old Neves told him to stop and warned him that the police were heading to the scene, but the suspect attempted to run away. The pastor, who was trained in kickboxing and the grappling dominant martial art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, chased after him, and an altercation ensued. They wrestled for roughly 15 minutes, and Neves later told a media outlet, "I tried to maintain back control on the gentleman so that he wasn't able to strike at me very effectively." The pastor added that he knew that he could outlast the suspect and thus had to wear him out. Neves maintained his caution regarding any potential weapons, but also tried to grapple with the suspect without having to do much harm to him. He pinned and held the man down until the Antioch Police Department arrived at the scene and took him into custody. Announcing the arrest on Facebook, the department wrote, "When the burglar saw his wicked deeds had been discovered, he decided to fight with the pastor instead of repent. What he did not know was that the pastor would win this battle of good and evil." Neves emerged from the brawl unscathed, and the incident made headlines. He told the media that the man, whom he believed was homeless, could have simply walked through the church doors and he would have been taken care of, as the church already provided groceries for over 100 local families. Although he didn't recommend that the public follow his example and fight criminals, Neves stated that he did believe in standing up for justice, pointing out that being a loving person doesn't mean you have to be a weak person. Humility and strength are not antithesis to each other. Number 3. Croatia pastry shop brawl. In the spring of 2018, a clip started circulating on social media of a fight that erupted outside a pastry shop in Sesvet, northeast of Zagreb, Croatia. Several men and 3 women were crowded into a seating area outside the store. Following a brief exchange of words, a bald-headed man in a leather jacket punched another male customer who was sitting on a chair. The latter tried to push back the aggressor but was headbutted and staggered backwards into some chairs and a female customer. Blood started pouring from the victim's nose, at which point a heavy-set man in a blue jacket intervened to check on him and hold the bald-headed man at arm's length. The latter refocused his anger on the peacekeeper and adopted an aggressive stance, but he severely underestimated him. The man in the blue jacket launched 4 right-handed punches in quick succession. The barrage pushed the bald-headed thug into a display window before he dropped to the floor. Inexplicably, the man he'd previously headbutted decided to check on him. While still bleeding from his own injuries, the thug regained his senses, struggled back to his feet, and ran off frame, most likely to find the man who had knocked him out. The original victim raised his arms, apparently confused about what had occurred. As he was talking to a donut shop worker at the window, the bald-headed man returned and sucker punched him in the back of the head before walking away. It wasn't immediately clear if any arrests were made in the brawl's wake. Today's topic was requested by Carol Downing, I'm 7FM, and April Shower 777. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Aris Sureni. In November of 2024, professional MMA fighter Raul Rosas Jr. was training at a Las Vegas gym when he was approached by a man who aggressively demanded he get off of his treadmill. The man, who was secretly recording the encounter, told the athlete, "I find it kind of disrespectful that you're using my treadmill right now." At just 20 years old, Rosas was among the top prospects in the UFC and had only suffered one loss during his MMA career. Upon making his debut in 2022, he became the youngest person to ever win a UFC fight. The man who was bothering him in the gym was fully aware of Rosas' fighting ability. He was YouTuber Aris Sureni, also known as Opto, who ran the Top Notch Idiots channel, which boasted over 4 million subscribers. 30-year-old Sureni continued to behave in a way meant to intimidate Rosas as part of his intention to prank him. Rosas initially moved to a different treadmill, but Sureni kept pestering him. Tensions escalated and the UFC fighter got heated, but members of his entourage calmed him down. Shortly thereafter, Sureni tried to grab a pair of dumbbells that Rosas was using, re-escalating the situation. One of the fighter's crew told him, "You're really testing our patience," while another pulled Sureni aside in an attempt to warn him. Sureni pretended he didn't know who Rosas was, and even after being told he fought for the UFC, he didn't relent. He put on a pair of boxing gloves and followed Rosas to the heavy bag, where he continued eyeing him. Exasperated, the fighter swung at Sureni and landed a glancing blow. The YouTuber walked away and spoke to an associate in the locker room. He seemed determined to end the prank, but the other man convinced him to keep going. He then went to the octagon area and insulted Rosas before accepting his challenge to a one-on-one fight. Sureni's inexperience was immediately obvious in the footage, but he nevertheless appeared to land a hard blow before running around the ring, swinging wildly. Rosas walked him down and eventually struck him with a hard left hook that floored him. Sureni curled up and, as the fighter continued landing hard punches to his head, repeatedly yelled out, "Bro, chill. It's a video." By that point, however, Rosas was fully committed to finishing him. He removed his gloves, took the YouTuber's back and placed him in a rear naked choke that rendered him unconscious. The fighter's crew stepped in, and as Sureni regained his senses, he told Rosas that he was a YouTuber and pointed out the hidden camera. By the end of the video, they all appeared to be in good spirits, and the UFC fighter commended Sureni for his courage to step in the cage with him. A number of YouTube commenters suggested that the clip was staged in its entirety, but those involved in the incident maintained that it was real, and a number of media outlets reported it as a genuine prank gone wrong. Hang back if you've not yet seen our episode about when raising hell for no reason goes wrong. It's a good one and is coming up right after number 1. Number 1. Nicolay Vlasenko. In the fall of 2014, professional boxer and MMA fighter Nicolay Vlasenko and his wife were at a nightclub in Starokorsunskaya, southwest Russia. At some point during the night, as he returned from the bathroom, Vlasenko confronted a group of men who were harassing his wife. They were reportedly trying to drag the woman into the VIP room to join them for drinks. As tensions escalated, one of the men, who was subsequently identified as 33-year-old Leonty Yevdokimov, suggested they take it outside. Vlasenko obliged, but as he left the club, a larger group was waiting for him. The men were reportedly part of a local gang responsible for a rise in petty crime in the small town. An eyewitness told a media outlet there were at least 10 of them, led by the 2 who thought they were real big shots. One of the men, with whom the pro boxer had previously argued, then emerged from the club and aggressively approached him. As seen in CCTV footage, Vlasenko backed away and adopted a fighting stance. He then struck the man with a leaping left hook. The thunderous strike knocked the thug out cold and he dropped to the pavement on his back, smashing his head onto the concrete. "I don't think he even knew what hit him as he went down like a bowling pin," a witness recounted. A second later, another man charged 29-year-old Vlasenko and tried to kick him, but the boxer struck him with an equally devastating right hook. The man's cigarette flew out of his mouth as he was knocked out on his feet. He went limp and collapsed headfirst into the ground. Vlasenko was surrounded by the group, but given that he'd thrown 2 punches that each drew a knockout, the men no longer seemed to be aggressive towards him. Then a third man came out of the club, seemingly unaware that his friends had been floored by Vlasenko. He charged the athlete and ended up on the receiving end of 3 quick punches, which staggered and nearly knocked him out. No further violence occurred, and those in the group still left standing tended to their battered friends. The thugs later tried to press charges against Vlasenko, but the case fell through. The police reviewed the surveillance footage and concluded that the professional pugilist had been fully justified in his actions. In the fall of 2023, footage of a shooting that had occurred at Jack in the Box restaurant on March the 31st of 2021 resurfaced and began gaining attention online. The incident unfolded at a branch near Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston, Texas. At around 11 p.m., customer Anthony Ramos, who had his pregnant wife and his young daughter in the car, returned to the fast food restaurant's drive-thru to complain that his combo meal was missing a side of curly fries. A heated argument ensued between Ramos and drive-thru employee Alanaia Fantasia Ford, who reportedly refused to give him the missing fries. As the verbal altercation progressed, Ford threw ice, ketchup, and other items at Ramos, who hurled them back at her through the window. Another employee closed and locked the window in an effort to ease the tension. Ford then returned with a pistol in hand, unlocked the window, and opened fire on Ramos and his family. The man was able to speed away and no injuries were reported. He later filed a lawsuit against Ford, Jack in the Box, and A3H Foods, seeking $250,000 in damages, alleging the shooting had caused him and his family substantial emotional distress, anxiety, nervousness, and fear. Ford was arrested for felony assault, but eventually pleaded guilty to misdemeanor deadly conduct, for which she was sentenced to 1 year deferred adjudication. She was released in June of 2023. In spite of the damning footage, Ford maintained that she wasn't a mad monster, adding, "I'm not going to pull out no gun and shoot at somebody over no curly fries. Come on." Number 6. Taylor Isaac incident. Australian woman Taylor Isaac was picking up her brothers from school in West Melbourne in July of 2023. She reached an area near Leakes Road in Tarniet when she merged in front of a Volkswagen Golf. In the moments that followed, the driver of the latter vehicle started aggressively tailgating Isaac, who had her teenage brother in the passenger seat at the time. The woman began recording him on her cell phone. The driver managed to get in front and reportedly threw a metal bottle at her car. When both vehicles reached a traffic light on Leakes Road, the man got out of the Volkswagen. He punched Isaac's passenger window multiple times, then moved to the driver's side door. He forcefully pulled on the handle before kicking the door. Isaac recorded the onslaught and, after safely driving away from the scene, posted the video in an online community group. She described the incident unfolding, warning others, "Please steer clear of this man who decides to harass people for driving." The police were still looking into the matter as of the latest updates. Number 5. Derek Smith. While riding on the N train in New York City in November of 2017, Sam's sire asked Derek Smith, who was sitting next to her, to stop manspreading as his leg was pushing her against the train's wall. It triggered a violent outburst from 56-year-old Smith, who started swearing at the woman, reportedly telling her that he'd abused white B-words like her in the past. Sire put in her earbuds and told the man to relax, which further enraged him. He demanded not to be ignored, and after uttering several more slurs, punched 37-year-old Sire in the face, sending her head slamming into the wall behind her. Passenger Victor Conde intervened and held Smith's arms down before forcing him to leave the train, telling him, "Get off the train, bro. You just hit a lady and she's bleeding. You hit her in the mouth." The confrontation between the two was recorded by another passenger. Sire reported the incident to law enforcement, but the authorities' handling of the situation was reportedly poor. The New York Police Department's 17th Precinct told her to file her report with the Transit District 34 headquarters, who in turn told her that she was wasting her time with them, as the attack could have been addressed by any police precinct. Disappointed by the police response, Saya took to Facebook and Twitter, posting a photo of the bruised and bloodied lip she'd suffered. The post was shared over 1,200 times and helped the woman connect with the bystander who'd captured the video. Her speaking out, however, reportedly resulted in Saya suffering harassment online, as she started receiving death threats and racist abuse that included her being called a race traitor. A few days after her post, however, Smith was arrested and charged with assault. Number 4. Darryl Clemens. A volunteer youth football coach from St. Louis, Missouri, was shot multiple times on October the 10th of 2023 by a parent who was allegedly enraged over his son's playing time. 30-year-old Shaquille Lattimore had taken the reins of a recreational team called the St. Louis Bad Boys after it had previously been coached by Darryl Clemens, who was also the father of one of the players. The team was primarily made up of 9 and 10-year-olds. Lattimore had arrived at the October the 10th practice armed because, as he later explained, the field was located in a bad part of the city. He gave his gun to someone else at the scene in Sherman Park before practice started, as he didn't want others to feel threatened. As indicated by a probable cause affidavit from the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office, Clemens was angry at Lattimore for not starting his son, and they'd been feuding for a few weeks. The conflict reached its climax and 43-year-old Clemens brandished a pistol. Lattimore would later report, "I didn't see his gun until it was already too late." Clemens opened fire and the coach was hit in the back as he ran. Clemens shot him again in the abdomen as he lay on the ground and taunted the father of 5, reportedly saying, "I told you I was going to pop you," before other adults intervened. The coach survived after receiving surgery and later posted a Facebook message from his hospital bed thanking his loved ones for their support. Clemens, who faced public outrage for opening fire in front of the youths, was arrested on charges of first-degree assault and armed criminal action. Number 3. Courtney Taylor Orr. In December of 2022, Florida woman Courtney Taylor Orr was arrested for pointing a gun at another vehicle during a road rage incident. It occurred on an 18-mile stretch of US 1 in Key Largo, where Orr was reported to have started tailgating the second vehicle while driving recklessly in her GMC Yukon. 35-year-old Orr was reported as having her 1-year-old child in her car at the time. The victim was able to capture the woman pointing her gun at them when they were side by side, and also provided the authorities with her license plate number. Deputies from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office were subsequently able to locate Orr and questioned her. She admitted to aiming her 9mm Glock at the other motorist during the road rage incident, as well as the fact that her young child was in the car. The woman also revealed that she'd subsequently hid the gun near a dumpster. The firearm was recovered and Orr was arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. She was booked at Monroe County Jail with a no bond status. Number 2. Sarah Nicole Morales. Florida woman Sarah Nicole Morales, a library assistant within the Volusia County Public Library System, was driving to her Orange City home on November the 20th of 2021. The 35-year-old, who was reported as being pregnant at the time, was involved in a road rage incident with 40-year-old motorcyclist Andrew Durr. Witnesses would later state that they'd seen Morales swerve abruptly into Durr's lane and intentionally strike his motorcycle with her blue Kia. Damage to the former vehicle's back saddlebags would later confirm that impact had occurred, but Durr wasn't thrown from the bike and had managed to keep it upright. 2 other motorists, one of whom was also on a motorcycle and the other in a truck, saw that the hit was intentional and joined Durr in confronting Morales while they were stopped at a light on Wisconsin Avenue in Orange City. The trio asked that she exchange information with Durr. The woman didn't oblige and turned towards her residence on East Wisconsin. Durr and the other 2 motorists followed her after having already alerted local law enforcement about the hit and run. Doreen Flaherty, Morales' mother, would report that her daughter had called her from the car and asked for her gun to be ready when she got home because 3 men were following her. Morales arrived at her address and stormed into the house where her 11-year-old daughter was present. Durr and the other two motorists, one of whom was in contact with police dispatch, pulled up and remained at the foot of her driveway. In the moments that followed, Morales emerged with a pistol in hand and shouted at them, "You're three men, you followed me, leave me alone." Flaherty would later reveal that the gun didn't have a round in the chamber, as her daughter wasn't reportedly strong enough to pull back the slide. She waved the gun and pointed at Durr, fearing that she was about to shoot. The latter brandished his own .45 caliber handgun for which he had a concealed carry permit. He shot at Morales 8 times from a range of 15 feet, and 5 of the bullets struck the woman. The gunshots were heard by dispatchers in the background as they were talking on the phone with one of the witnesses to the initial accident. Body cam footage from the scene would show responding officers holding Durr at gunpoint and handcuffing him as he lay flat on the ground. He was heard saying that he was sorry, adding, "She tried to kill me." Morales was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at Halifax Hospital due to heavy blood loss. An autopsy was unable to confirm her pregnancy. 4 months after the incident, the prosecutor's office announced that it found the shooting to have been justified, and no charges were filed against Durr. Number 1. Arka Sangbarani Orujayan. In late January of 2019, California man Arka Sangbarani Orujayan surrendered to law enforcement in Los Angeles following an altercation with 2 women outside a nightclub at 6th and Spring Streets. The incident occurred on January the 26th, and a video of it subsequently went viral. Orujayan was arguing with a hot dog vendor over the quality of his food, reportedly boasting, "I own the streets of LA." The 2 women confronted him for being rude to the vendor, and their argument turned physical. Orujayan, who was 6'3" and weighed roughly 270 pounds, was recorded throwing one woman to the ground before punching and knocking down the other one. He then successively dropped both women with punches when they tried to get up. He subsequently fled the scene. The victims were taken to the hospital after they were left with injuries that included facial bruising, a broken finger, and concussions. The people that were on the crowded sidewalk were heard laughing and cheering as Orujayan pummeled the women. One of the victims would later criticize the crowd's reaction, telling the media, "We can't believe that nobody did anything." After he surrendered to the police, Orujayan was held on a $90,000 bail. He spoke to the media about the incident and claimed he was unfairly treated in the court of public opinion as he was merely defending himself. The muscle-bound man claimed that the women had cursed him out, spat on him, and that one of them had hit him, causing him to lose balance and fall. Orujayan stated that upon rising to his feet, he felt that he had to defend himself. He maintained that the viral video only showed him as the aggressor and not the events that had preceded his violent outburst, adding, "Because I'm a big person, I'm being crucified all over social media right now." On May the 28th, Orujayan pleaded guilty to 2 counts of misdemeanor battery, for which he was sentenced to 30 days in county jail, 30 days of community labor, and 3 years probation. He additionally had to complete 24 anger management classes, write each of the victims an apology letter, and pay them restitution. Thanks for watching. If you could choose just one person to have your back in a fight, who would it be? Let us know in the comments section below.